now available on e-readers everywhere. From the author of the Simp Trilogy, Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance. Manginas, they look like men, but they act like ladies. And the misadventures of Captain Save-A-Ho comes, Stop Simping in the Workplace. Learn what mistakes not to make with women and protect your job with Stop Simping in the Workplace. Available on e-readers everywhere. Many in America look at these mass shootings that have transpired over the last decade and have escalated over the last decade as isolated incidents. However, these are not isolated incidents and they are connected. And if you look at all of these mass shootings from a panoramic perspective and an objective perspective, you see them as only a symptom in a growing problem here in America. And that problem here in America is the man crisis that's been going on here in America for several decades. And a lot of people only look at the mass shootings as only one part of this man crisis. However, this man crisis has other implications as well, because we have not only men participating in these mass shootings, but they're also participating in isolated incidents such as murdering their wives and their families, and some men are just holding all of their anger and frustration in and then just committing suicide. So this man crisis is leading to many men going out here and participating in horrific acts of violence, whether they be mass shootings, murders of their wives and families, or suicides. And most people are just seeing them as isolated incidents instead of connecting them as part of a larger problem related to the way we have raised men here in America and the way men are seen here in American society. And the way men have been raised here in America is one of the core reasons why we have a man crisis here in America, because over the last century, many men have been raised in gynocentrism. And in a gynocentric society, females are elevated to a higher social status by males here in society. And as the feminist movement grew here in America, many men started giving more and more concessions to females. And as a part of this gynocentric society, females now have a larger economic base, a larger political base, a larger social base, and are now part of a majority of the population. And because they are a larger part of the population and have more control over society, a lot of men are wondering what their role here is in American society. And thanks to feminism socially engineering 3 generations of beta males, many men just do not know how to be men here in society because they've been raised to be men under the gynocentric state, and they've been raised in a way that teaches them a feminized view of masculinity and manhood. And as they enter the world, they are finding out that many of the concepts they were taught by women just don't work for men. And when they go out into this world, what they're finding is that the world is completely different from what females have told them, and they don't know how to make life in this world work for them as men. This is why many men are becoming frustrated. This is why many men are becoming angry. And this is why we're seeing an escalation in violence here in America with all of these mass shootings, many of these men killing their families, and many men who are just suffering in silence and then deciding to go out here and commit suicide, because these men have been raised to behave, socialize like women and to act like women, but they go out in the world and they're judged as men, and they don't know how to navigate the world as men. And the reason why these men do not know how to navigate the world as men, again, relates to them being raised by women and socialized by women and learning how to behave just like women. And they believe that if they go out into the world, that the world is going to be equal to them. Unfortunately, the gynocentric society we live in benefits females more than males. And because it benefits females more than males these days, women can get jobs faster than men and, in many cases, make more money than men. And when these women are making more money and getting jobs faster than men, what these females are doing these days is telling men that they are oppressing them, they are abusing them, and they are controlling them. Moreover, they're trying to make more laws to oppress men even further and take more of their rights away and marginalize men by doing things like saying that men are manspreading, or men are doing things like mansplaining, or doing things like even looking at them. And this is what's leading to a lot of the male frustration out here, because these men are not only having a hard time navigating a course in this gynocentric society, what they're doing is being blamed for problems that they didn't even know about. So these men are feeling more and more marginalized, feeling more and more devalued, and they feel like there is no place for them in American society. And because many of these men feel like there is no place for them in American society, they are they are simmering and boiling in anger because they are, one, angry at their mothers and many of the females in society for telling them that the world would be easy for them, the world would be fair for them, and that there would be things for them. And then they go out into the world and then they find out it's completely different, that the world is a rough and hostile place, and that men have it harder these days than their fathers did because there are no support systems for men. And when people try to create support systems for men, what happens is those men are bullied and shamed and told that they are doing something wrong, especially by feminists these days, because everything is about the patriarchy. And whenever you try to present messages to help men, you are called a sexist or a misogynist. But we need more messages out here to help men, because a lot of these males have been raised in a dysfunctional way. And because they have not been raised to learn about manhood from men, a lot of them are becoming, again, angry, frustrated, and confused because they're going out into a world and then finding out that the world sees them differently and that the world works differently for them than the women who they've been raised by. And it is true. The world is completely different for men than it is for women, because when it comes down to women, women get their needs taken care of by men. They get their resources from men. And women have more than one stream of income than a man. When it comes down to a female, she can go out here and she gets money not only from her job, but she gets money from her parents, her boyfriend, side hustles. She has three or four sources of income. However, a man who goes out into the world only has one source of income, that is himself, and maybe possibly a side hustle that comes from his own hobbies or own personal interests. And this is something that guys don't get because they're not being taught how to be men from men. And because boys are not being taught how to be men for men, they're learning this whole female social dynamic. And when men learn a female social dynamic, it doesn't work for them. And this is why they are running into walls. And when they run into these walls, they become, again, extremely frustrated, extremely angry. They simmer, they boil, and then eventually they explode. And when these males go out here, especially these beta males go out here, and they're running into these obstacles, they often wind up getting frustrated right at the first hurdle. And this is why they need a man in their life to teach them manhood, because when there is a man there to teach that boy manhood, he will learn discipline, he will learn character, he will learn resolve, because that's what men teach the boys, and that's what men teach other men. They teach them how to get discipline, character, and resolve, and they teach them how to persevere and overcome obstacles. When a boy is raised by a female, in many cases, he is coddled, he is told to give up, he's told to quit, and that's what leads to him falling apart. And when he looks at this gynocentric state and this gynocentric media, which is constantly bashing men, criticizing men, telling them that they are no good, that there is no place for them, that also adds to their anger and frustration. And that's what makes them feel like there is nothing there for them. When it comes down to a lot of these males, they feel like they have nothing to lose, and they feel like there is no place for them in society. And this is why many of these men wind up lashing out in the way that they do. Because when it comes down to men, again, these guys have been socialized to act like females, and there is no positive male image out there, no positive influence out there. So they're expressing themselves by exploding to this rage and participating in these horrific acts of violence. And the only way to really stop this trend is, one, to acknowledge the problem, which is what many people don't want to do, especially a lot of these beta male simps and a lot of these manginas, is they don't want to acknowledge the problem with this man crisis, because acknowledging this man crisis means confronting this female and confronting this gynocentric state. Moreover, it means starting to take some of this female's rights away and balance things out by giving men a role in society, giving men authority in society, and giving men a place in society. If we look at American society these days, everything is about the female and presenting the female on a high level and putting her on a pedestal that's way high, but it's not about giving men the respect they deserve and acknowledging a place for men in society. And because we're not acknowledging the problem as related to the growing inequality in American society between men and women, this is why we're seeing this uptick in violence in American society, and we're seeing this growing man crisis here in America. Now, this man crisis here in America is something many don't want to talk about, again, because they just don't want to confront the women in American society and tell them they've been doing a poor job of raising their sons, especially this whole feminist dogma which said that women did not need a man and that women don't need a man to raise a boy to be a man. But we look at the last 50 or 60 years as related to the way boys have been raised in this gynocentric society, and I'm clearly seeing that we really do need a man to help raise a boy to become a man, and only a man can raise a boy to become a man. Because when I look at the males out here and I'm looking at them self-destructing, I clearly see what happens when there is no value of men in society, when men have been marginalized in society, when there is no role for men in society, and when we continue to emasculate men in society. What happens is men become frustrated, men become angry, and they lash out in the only way they know, which is through these horrific acts of violence. The only way we can stop this man crisis here in America is to start investing resources in men and start investing in men overall. Unfortunately, due to gynocentrism and feminism, socially engineering all of these beta males out here who believe that females are more powerful than men, that's going to be a real challenge. But the real solution to stopping this violence and actually helping improve the quality of life here in America is for all of us to start investing more resources in men, investing in promoting the self-worth of men, promoting a value in men, promoting respect for men, because what feminism does is teaches us to marginalize men and minimize men, and men have a significant and important role in God's natural order. In God's natural order, God made the man to be the leader. He made the man to be the head of the family. And he did that because that's man's natural role. Men are supposed to be first in American society. And when their men have been taken out of their natural place, this is why American society has completely, really fallen apart. Because once you take the man out of his natural role as leader of the family, head of the family, and builder of society, what happens is This is why you have a complete decline in American society and why you have a complete moral collapse in society, because men as leaders establish a standard for things and they establish a quality of life for everyone. And the only way we're going to get back to things constructively, again, has to do with dealing with this man crisis here in America, because in order to get back things back to a constructive place, we have to start acknowledging the problems here in America related to men, the way men have been perceived in society, the way men are treated in society, because the way we are treating men is why we are having so many problems here in America and why so many men are self-destructing. We are not raising boys to be men. We are not raising boys to see a value in being men. And we're not raising boys to see a place for themselves in the world as men. Everything in American society caters to the female, and females feel like they have a place in society. And unfortunately, when it comes down to men, they don't see a place for themselves. And because they don't see a place for themselves, they wind up going out here and participating in these horrific acts of violence, looking to destroy other people's lives because they see no place for themselves to have a life here in America. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you'd like to learn more about men's issues, you may do so by clicking my link to my men's issues books on Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.